Hello everybody, my name is Will Carmack. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, and I'm going to be showing you how to animate Star-Lord's rocket boots from Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's just get into it in After Effects. So here we have my footage of me rappelling down off of a building. In my last tutorial, I showed you how to remove a wire so you can get a shot like this. First step is to mask. So we'll come up to the top and grab our Roto Brush tool, double click on our footage, and right as we jump off, we will just start rotoscoping. And basically you want it to be as accurate as possible. And truthfully, you only just need to mask the boots. And of course, when it goes off of your object, just get it back on there. And then once you're done masking, you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. Looks a little bit goofy because I didn't get the mask perfect, like my arms are cut off, but all that matters is that the boots look good. And look at those boots, they look good. Next, we will track the boots. So we will click on our original footage, go to our tracker panel and click track motion. We'll grab our little guy, bring him to our boot right here. And I just kind of got away with tracking the middle of the boot. I'll track backwards first and then track forwards later. So let's analyze backwards. Man, that's looking really good. Look at that automatic track. All right, now I'll track forward. I just let it track all the way down until my boots hit the ground. Okay, it did an amazing job tracking. So now we need to send this tracking data somewhere. So go up to Layer, New, and Null Object. We'll rename this null object Left Boot, because this is where we will be sending our data. In the tracker panel, hit Edit Target. Select the layer you want to select, and we will do Left Boot. Hit OK, and hit Apply. Bam! And now we have a null that is perfectly tracked to our boot. For the sake of time, I'm only going to do this left boot. Don't kill me, it's the exact same process for the other boot. Since I've already done this, I can show you what it looks like. It will end up looking like this. You'll have two nulls tracked to both boots. Now we just need to get our assets that we will link to our boots. For me, I went to Production Crate, and you can see they've got all these great dust assets. I used these for like when I land, there'll be a little puff of smoke. I also grabbed a fog burst sideways because this is like a smoke stream you can attach to the bottom of your shoe. They also have these great sparks constant sides. I chose this one right here because it seemed a little like intense and sporadic. And then lastly, a blowtorch flame to make it look like it has a consistent little like thing shooting out the bottom of it. Download all of those assets and bring them into After Effects. I will start with my torch flame. Let's drag that down into our composition, bring it underneath of our mask, and oh, I just moved the mask. What we will do first is hit Y and move the anchor point to the very bottom of the torch. We will rotate it so it's facing straight down and put it underneath of our boot like so. Hit S to bring down scale and bring scale down really far, like this, and then set this blending mode to add, because once we set it to add, it will look like it's glowing. All right, so now it's linked to the boot. Oh, it's not yet. So now we like the placement of our torch, grab the pick whip tool and link it to our left foot. See what we got. Wow, looks amazing, doesn't it? I'm gonna loop it for you so you can just stare at it. So we've tracked this torch to my foot. If we watch it the whole way through, it honestly looks fantastic. It even sticks to my foot in the ground right there. So what we're gonna do to just animate this to look cool is it obviously starts right here way too big. I like how big it is at this point, so I will hit S to bring down scale and create a keyframe. I will go over right after I jump off and hit 0. So what we're doing is making it look like the torch is coming out of my boot right after I jump. So if I loop that, it looks great. You see the torch come out kind of like starting to slow my descent. This is what it looks like when you do it to both shoes. Amazing. When we hit the ground right here and you see that the torch stays on my foot, what we're gonna do is just go a few frames before I land, create a new keyframe for scale, go over until I hit the ground and hit 0. So as we land, the torch flame goes away. Incredible. Rinse and repeat that process with the sparks. So you see here, I have my shooting sparks assets. I'll just drag that into my composition. You can see that I already have it behind my mask. Let's grab our anchor point and lock it to the bottom of the torch. Let's rotate and position it to be underneath of my shoe. Let's set this to add and grab the pick whip tool and link it to my null left foot. And if we watch that back, we now have this giant spark stream that's like linked to our shoe. It's obviously way too big. Let's scale it down to a place we like, maybe like right there. This looks absolutely fantastic. Importantly, let's kind of color match it to the background. So I'll go up to effects and presets and type in curves. I'll drag that onto my shoot sparks. I want it to look a little more yellowy, so I'm gonna grab the red curve, bring that down. I'll drag my blues up, and then I'll crank up my yellows. Fuck around with the brightness a bit. That looks good. So if I invisible the curves, you can see the difference. I'm just kind of like making the flame match the background a little more. And of course, in the layers panel, let's select motion blur so our sparks have a little bit of like realistic blur. Ooh, looks so good. And of course, right before we hit the ground, let's create a keyframe for scale. And as our boots hit the ground, let's just send that to 0. All right, now we have spark boots. Oh yeah, in the beginning, you see the sparks are really big. Same deal with the torch. Right here, where you want your sparks to like look nice and like normal sized, let's create a position keyframe for scale. Go back to when I'm just jumping off and hit 0. And on the replay, you can see that the sparks just shoot out of my boots when I jump off. Ooh, looks fantastic. Lastly, I'm gonna grab my smoke stream, you know, the element of smoke like this, and I'm just gonna repeat that exact process. All right, and once you have the smoke linked, you have an amazing little exhaust shooting out. Love. I set that to add. It could also be screen if you want it to be more subtle. And to composite the smoke to look more realistic, I will go to the effects and presets panel and type in tint, and I'll throw that on my smoke stream. So if I unsolo the layer, I can map the whites to something more yellow to make it like match the environment more, because it's being shot out of these fiery rocket boots. So we kind of want the whites to match that. So yeah, like a subtle yellow vibe is nice. Look at that, like just that close up is really nice. Ooh, rocket boots on fleek. Of course, duplicate that to the right side. So now this is what it looks like when you've applied all those effects to both boots. You're basically done except for a few manual adjustments. Like right here, you'll notice that my exhaust torch and my sparks don't line up very well. So what you have to do is find your sparks layer and kind of just create rotation keyframes, and over time, match it with the movement of your shoe. So you can see right here, I've kind of adjusted the rotation of my sparks to match the movement of my shoe and the exhaust. Love that. All right, I'm happy with my rocket boots animation, but now we're gonna move on to the compositing, which is like blending everything in, like making the bottom of the boots glow because there's fire behind them, or because there's sparks shooting in the air, creating heat distortion around where my shoes are. And because there's light that's just being shot out of my shoes, we have to light up the environment around it. So now we're moving on to compositing. We'll start with a really easy one, my shoe edge light. What we wanna do is grab my mask, and let's grab the effect called fill. I'll put this effect on my mask right here, and I will create a mask and just do it on my feetsies. Here's a nice trick, not a lot of people know this. If you hit E, you can grab fill, and under compositing options, you can click this plus and tell it to only be applied to the mask. So I have a fill effect on my shoes, crank the feather up real high. What I'm gonna do is have it just affect the top of my boots where the fire will be shooting out. If I get rid of the background, you can see what I'm trying to do here. Where the sparks and fire are shooting out of the bottom of my shoe, I'm creating an edge glow. And so I will change the fill effect color to maybe be more yellow orangey. Okay, pretty nice. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a keyframe on the mask path, and over time, I'm going to track this mask to the bottom of my shoes where the fire is coming out of. So over time, I have the light perfectly isolated to where this would be in in real life. So bam. With this, it's really subjective. I'll crank the feather up and maybe bring the expansion down. So like right here is a little intense. So we crank the feather up, bring the opacity down. Ooh, and we just go throughout the entire frame. We go throughout the entire timeline and track this lighting onto our shoes. And once you've done that and you've made your mask path last the entire shot, let's look at just the boots right here. So now you can see that where the like fire is shooting out of my boots, the bottom of my boots are glowing. I love that for me. So that is a nice compositing trick for you. Let's watch that all together. I mean, I can like physically feel how more realistic it looks not having that hard edge. Like really quick, let me get rid of that layer just to show you how big of a difference. So that this is without the feet light, this is with the feet light. Fantastic. Now, of course, because our feet are getting close to the ground and we're shooting fire out of it, we want to make the ground light up as well. So let's create an adjustment layer, new adjustment layer, and let's put it underneath of all of our elements, except the background. And if we come up to effects and presets and type in curves, we can throw the curves onto this adjustment layer, crank it up real bright. I'll turn down the blues, bring the reds up, mess with the greens, make it look a little like yellowy, and I'll grab the pen tool and create a giant mask around where I want the light to affect the environment. Hit M twice, feather this bitch out, ooh, and create a keyframe for opacity. Go all the way up to the top here before the fire starts coming out of your boots, and bring this down to 0. So as we get closer, you can see right here that the ground will get more yellow. Love that. All right, are you seeing this on the loop, on the replay? This is amazing. This is great compositing. And of course, with our mask path, let's create a keyframe for when I land. We need to create this to be way smaller. So bam, as I land, the light source needs to get smaller. So I will drag this to be really small and put it like where my feet are. See what that looks like. Oh, that looks awesome. Check that out. Okay, and so as we're getting here, as the mask gets smaller, let's create a keyframe for opacity, bring it all the way down to 0. So as we land, our light is disappearing. I'll drag the keyframe way out so it's more gradual. Amazing. I'm gonna fine tune it a little more, and let's name this floor light. And on the replay, this looks amazing. We're jumping off, everything is shooting out. All right, we'll make one more light adjustment layer. So let's actually duplicate that adjustment layer we just made, and I will bring it up to the very top of everything. And I'm going to delete the mask off of this and create a new mask that is just a giant ambient light around my feet. Hit M twice and we'll crank up the feather. Bop. On mask opacity, hit Alt and type in wiggle parentheses 30, 50. So it's gonna flicker 30 times and it's gonna adjust the effect opacity 50%. So it'll never actually flicker like down to 0 opacity, just 50. So now we have a flickering light, as you can see here, that's like over top of everything. And we're just gonna use mask path keyframes to track this flickering light to our boots. So I'll create a keyframe right here. Do I feel an earthquake? No, okay, sorry. All right, and so we'll just create this around our feet, and we'll track the light onto our feet with mask keyframes like so. And when you watch that back, you have this kind of like exciting flickering effect that's affecting everything. I'm gonna crank the feather up a lot and keyframe the opacity of the whole layer, since we've already adjusted the opacity of the mask, to fade in and out at the beginning. So as our rocket boots light up, so does the scene around it. And I have the opacity fading as we hit the ground. This looks fantastic. Looks really nice. I could actually probably change like the hue of the light flicker. So I'll make a few more like fine-tune adjustments. All right, now that we've got like, I'd say a really solid rocket boot animation, let's animate the landing a little bit. So if I select just the original background, I'll go to the tracker panel and hit track camera. Now that we have this just absolutely beautiful track, I mean, look at that. I will select a spot near my feet, right click, create solid. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rotate this solid to face the camera. And basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a placeholder for the effect that I want to put in later, just so I can test the track. Ooh, it's tracked perfectly, look at that. So you go to your project and you grab the asset you want, which for me is this dust puff. Puff, puff. Sorry, I'm so weird. We're gonna select the dust puff asset and make sure that our track solid is selected. We're gonna hold Alt and drag the dust puff onto the track solid. So we just replace that track solid with the dust puff. You can see it down there. I will rotate it. I will rotate it to fit where I want it to be. I will set it to add and scale this little bitch up. So if we watch that back, I wanna make sure that it goes off right when I land, like right here. Ooh, that looks amazing, doesn't it? I mean, just look at it. Okay, one more time. Beautiful. And so now what we're gonna do to make this composited well is we're gonna go to Effects and Presets and type in tint and drag that onto your dust puff layer. So now we can zoom into our dust puff to see that we are now changing the color to be more like yellow or orangey to match the vibes of the rocket boots. That looks amazing. And we will duplicate that and then drag it to the other shoe. And I'm actually gonna make these a little more subtle and set them to screen. And now we have a beautifully composited shot. I am really happy with this. I'm gonna give you 2 more compositing tricks and then I'll get out of your hair. So because we're bringing all this bright light close to the camera, we have a fun opportunity to like show the dust particles and the scratches like on the lens, just to make it feel like it was all shot in one location. So if we go to Google and type in lens dirt, you go to images and I downloaded this one right here. So download this, and once your lens dirt is in After Effects, just like we'll rotate it to be oriented to the camera and we will set it to screen. So you see down here where my boots are like really close to the camera. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a mask around like the brightest areas of where the boots are like lighting up the lens. All right, and then we'll make a giant crank feather. So just feather that the frick up. And then we will grab our tint effect, put it on the lens dirt, and we will make the lens dirt kind of orange. I actually have that tint effect on there twice, whatever. And so, all right, so as I approach the camera, what we're gonna do is create an opacity. I'm gonna set it to like 58. And as I start from up here, I'm gonna set it to 0 and watch what happens. So as we get close to the camera, you see that it's like lighting up all these like particles on the lens, which is like a natural phenomenon that happens to cameras. And then as we land, we can just like set the keyframe opacity to 0. So basically creating the effect as light is passing the lens, it is lighting up all the dirt on top of it. Oh, that looks fantastic. And for the final touch, and it's the final one because it is an advanced, financed tip. Video Copilot on their website has this plugin called Heat Distortion. It is a paid plugin, so sorry. But what it does is it creates the realistic fire heat ripples in the air. So we'll come up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, Effects and Presets, we'll type in Heat Distortion and drag that onto the adjustment layer. You can automatically see what's happening. It's distorting everything to make it look like there's like really hot air. I'm just gonna create a mask around my feet, feather that a lot, and with the mask path, I'm gonna keyframe it to just be like tracked onto my feet because my feet are now creating lots of heat. And so I'm just gonna keyframe this mask to like stay in all the areas where the heat ripples would be affected. So if we watch that back, you see the air is being distorted like really intensely by all the heat distortion. But what I'm gonna do so it's like not this intense the whole time is make the opacity in the middle of this layer 100. At the very beginning, make it 0. So as I'm going down, the heat is getting closer to the camera. That looks amazing. You see like as we get close to the camera right here, like we have light on the ground, we have lens dirt and heat distortion. And then obviously by the time we hit the ground, crank this down to 0. So our adjustment layer comes and goes. And wow, I think that's it. That is my complete visual effects breakdown of how you do rocket boots as Star-Lord. So yeah, This looks fantastic. Sorry, I'm just like so happy with it. In case you guys don't know, I've started the WCU, which is a rival to the MCU. I bought a bunch of costumes. I'm learning all these visual effects. So follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I'm posting all this stuff. I hope this tutorial is fun. Even if you don't use rocket boots ever, you've learned a lot of compositing tricks. And of course, it's time to thank today's amazing sponsor, Squarespace. From online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform. Let's say you're a photographer and you want to show your work to the world so you can get hired. Well, Squarespace's portfolio and galleries section lets you do just that. They have award-winning designer templates that you can upload your photography right into. And so when people come to your website, your work will be professionally displayed to everybody who sees. Next, let's say you're like a business-minded freak. Kidding. Business people aren't freaks. Well, Squarespace has amazing analytics that lets you know all of your traffic sources, where they're spending money, how much, where, when, why. There's a chart and a number and a graph for everything. So good, a dummy like me can read and understand them. So imagine like how you can take over the world if you're actually a smart person. I'm doing a bad job at saying that Squarespace has amazing analytics. And of course, they have great connected services options. You can embed your Instagram, your SoundCloud, your YouTube straight into your website. So when people come to your website, they can follow you on all of your social platforms. So get Squarespace to cross-pollinate, to promote yourself. Best part is, guys, I got you hooked up with a discount code. So if you go to squarespace.com/willcarmack, you'll get 10% off your first website or domain. So check out the website, sign up with Squarespace, and guys, don't forget, where there's a will, there's a way. My name is Will, and have a nice day.